Hi, I'm Zachary Williams with the United Richmond Airsoft team, here to explain the hop-up and why it is the most important aspect to your airsoft gun and how to get the best performance out of your airsoft gun on the field. So to start with that, the hop-up unit first and foremost puts a backspin on the BB in the most basic terms. Airsoft works due to the Magnus effect, which is the scientific name of that backspin and what happens to it with the fluid thermodynamics. What happens essentially is similar to what happens with a plane wing, where you're trying to get a lower pressure going over the top of the BB while maintaining a higher pressure below the BB. That backspin sort of does that in a basic sense. We see here we get low pressure over the top of the BB, with the BB spinning in that backwards manner as it's going forward, and higher pressure below with some of that wind resistance. This creates the upward lift. Now, there are several different types of hop-ups that you will see. Most of them boil down to two effects though. You're going to have a flat, a nub, or a concave shape of the hop-up unit. Some hop-ups will use a feathering on their hop, so instead of a little nub here, you'll see two little feathers pointing down. I know KWA uses this, but in most effects, these are the three types you'll mostly see. You'll have the normal hop-up nub, the next up would be the flat hop, followed by the S-hop and the R-hop. The S-hop and R-hop being very similar, the S-hop simply being the poor man's version of the R-hop. It uses a substance called Subaru, as opposed to a proper R-hop material. It doesn't last as long, but you're going to get a similar effect. In the chambers, what you're going to see here is the hop arm and the nub type you're going to have. For most nubs, it's going to be this little round nub you see here, and it's going to push down a little mound of rubber into the hop-up chamber where that hop window is. We see here on this inner barrel that the hop window is here. This is a fairly standard M4 barrel. This has an S-hop patch on it, but if you remove that patch, you'll see an open window into the barrel. And in that window, you're either going to flat hop it with a different nub, or you're going to put a little nub here. When you flat hop, essentially what you're doing is you're taking that nub, grinding it down, and making a flatter bit of material. The hop-up will work best if you get additional resistance upon the BB, providing additional backspin for a longer period of time. What you want to try to do is modify that Magnus effect as best as you can. And in order to do that, you want to use the heaviest BB possible with the best hop system you can give to it to hop that BB. Now, what you're going to find is that against common assumption, a lighter, faster BB will not have nearly the accuracy or range as a slower, heavier BB. This has to do with the Newton's law that an object in motion will stay in motion unless acted upon by an equal or opposite force. Now, when we're talking about equal and opposite forces, we're talking about the wind and wind resistance and air resistance. Those are the forces at play acting on the BB. So if a BB is heavier, it will contain far more energy than a lighter BB, and it will be able to ignore that wind and air resistance for a longer period of time. Thus, you're going to get a far longer, flatter trajectory out of that BB, although it will technically be slower. This is why I much prefer utilizing the idea of joules when measuring your airsoft gun's velocity as opposed to FPS. FPS is a fairly useless piece of information, to be honest. Joules is what is going to tell you how hard your airsoft gun will be hitting and how much energy your BB is going to be having. I try to keep all of my guns about the 1.4 joule area. For a 2.0 BB, if you want to convert that into FPS, that's going to be somewhere around 375 feet per second. But joules are what you want to use, not FPS. And what we're going to see here is you want to hop the heavier BB. To hop the heavier BB, you're going to want one of these hop-up systems over here: flat hop, S-hop, or R-hop. R-hop being sort of the crown jewel here. The R-hop provides a concave aspect to the BB to provide more surface area for it to grip, and more surface area provide an increased effect of that magnus effect on it as it's leaving the barrel. Flat hop is a good, very easy modification of an airsoft gun. All you really need is a Dremel and your bucking. Essentially, you will turn the bucking inside out, Dremel off the nub, Dremel off the guiding slot on it, and turn it. Now when you do that, you're going to get a little flat hop nub here and push it down into the barrel. That's really all you need. Technically, you don't need a flat hop nub. You can use your basic out-of-box nub, but you'll get far more effect out of a flat hop nub by pushing more material into the barrel. S-hop, again, is done with Sugru. You will take the Sugru and mold it into the window. This will come out looking similar to this. With that way, you'll also flat hop the bucking so that you're using a flat hop nub and the flat hop bucking to push as much material down into the window as possible. When you do that and you look through the barrel, you will see a concave shape. You'll have a similar process with the R-hop, but the R-hop will use a special material that you will cut to the window's opening. It's a far more intense process, requiring a few more tools. There are some third parties out there that can provide those tools, but for the most part, I usually just go with S-hop or R-hop, or S-hop or flat hop, simply because they're easy to do. They're quick, they're easy, you get them done. I don't play enough that the degradation of the S-hop over time matters so much to me. So really the hop-up system that's best for you will depend on the time you want to, and on the time and energy you want to put into it. I will always at least flat hop all of my guns. All of the weapons that I use are flat hopped at the very minimum, including my backup weapon systems. It is important to keep in mind, though, that once you start moving up these systems, you will become incapable of utilizing lighter weight BBs. My S-hopped and R-hopped guns simply cannot use a BB less than 28 grams. It will overhop the BB and make it inaccurate. I usually use 36 gram BBs on my S-hop units for this reason. So if you are running around in a CQB environment or indoor field where you're going to be around 1 joule, flat hopping is probably the most you're going to want to do to your gun, if at all. If you're running around 1 joule in a CQB environment, honestly, the out-of-box hop-up system is all you really need. Flat hop, S-hop, R-hop are really good for fields and outdoor play, where you're going to want that increased hop-up effect. Now, moving on to hop-up systems, most guns will have a very different system. The basic M4 system is fairly easy to utilize. Once you start getting outside of that, though, hop-ups are usually fairly standardized between all guns. You're going to have a hop-up rubber, which is this. You're going to have a hop-up bucking. You're going to have a hop-up arm. So you know how to disassemble your gun. You know how to disassemble your inner barrel and hop-up unit. You can probably at least flat hop it. So that's our little science for the day. I hope you learned a little something. This is just a very basic introductory course to how hop-ups work and how best to utilize your hop-up. Thank you.